Welcome to the noon meeting of the Rotary Club of Baton Rouge. Before we start, please remember to silence your cell phones so they don't interrupt today's program. The invocation will be led by Bill Peters. After the invocation, please stay standing for the pledge, and after the pledge, the four-way test.
Shall we pray? Father, we're thankful for this day, this beautiful day, when you brought all these Rotarians and guests together, people who are interested in the community and seeing it be upgraded to the quality that it can be. We ask you to bless President Maui as he leads the club. And we ask you to give clear guidance to Todd Stevens as he strives to upgrade the medical care in our community. Father, we ask you now to bless this food to our bodies and our bodies to thy service. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Of the things we think, do, and say,
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned? And now Brian Haldane will introduce our guests.
Please join me in welcoming our guests today. And as I introduce our visitors, would you please stand to be recognized and hold applause until the end, please. Our guests today are Brett Furr, Danielle Mack, Jonas Fontenot, Jody Connigan, Renee Duffin, Susan Dickerson, Dana Nusser, Teresa Daigle, Kelly Stevens, Scott Miller, Jessica Canning, Emily Guidros, Amy Marino, Stephen Mumford, Ryan Sinatair, Greg Scott, Catherine Harrell, Ryan Cross, Katie Thompson, Monica Njoka, Pierce Sinman, Megan Parrish, and Kelly Troutman. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for all of our guests today.
Welcome, and hope that if you're thinking about membership, you will talk with our membership director, past president Stephen Winkler. Now, Blake Fowler will introduce our newest member.
Ryan Gisclair was born and raised in Baton Rouge and graduated from the Dunham School in 1997. He then went on to attend Louisiana Tech, where he spent a year on the baseball team. After graduation, Ryan was ready to get back home to begin his career and has since co-founded Capital South Wealth Management. Ryan is a certified financial planner who helps individuals and business owners with investing for their future and financial planning. In addition to the CFP, Ryan is also a chartered special needs consultant. He uses this specialized knowledge to work with families and individuals who have special needs. Together, they build plans to create the best outcome for all involved. Ryan believes it is our duty to serve in our community and to help make it a better place. He currently sits on the board of directors for Louisiana Key Academy, which is a charter school for kids with dyslexia. He was recently elected to vice president of the Estate and Business Planning Council of Baton Rouge, and he is the president of the Dunham School Alumni Council. Ryan feels his most important roles in life are husband and father. He has been married to his wife, Lindsay, for 14 years, and they have 4 children, Ryan, Brent, Lila Grace, and Ellis. Ryan is a great man and businessman, and I'm excited to have him in the club. I believe as you get to know him, you will share in that same excitement. Please help me in welcoming officially Ryan Just Claire to our club.
Ryan, welcome to the club. Today's head table, to my right, your left, Carter Stone, Director of Development, Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center, who led us in the pledge. Blake Fowler, Broker Owner, Exit Realty Group. Ryan Gisclair, our newest member. Credina Beverly, Doctor, Owner, Twinkling Smiles of Baton Rouge. I'm Maui Tachi, your club president. Todd Stevens, our speaker, who will be more formally introduced. Bill O'Quinn, President, Financial Services Online, and Bill Peters, Small Business Consultant, Peters Wealth Advisors, LLC, retired. Your head table. And now Stephen Winkler will come up for membership drawing.
Said it would be easier. Yeah, really. This is a commercial for duct tape. I get no respect whatsoever. All right. You're wondering what this is. Thank you. Green flag. Give that man a cigar. No, but what does the green flag signify? The start exactly of a race. And we are here now at the beginning of January on the race for the end of the year for the membership campaign. So what I want each of you to do is to pick out good quality folks who you want to be sitting at the table with you now. Those of you who are sitting at the table now who are not members, you know, I've got your applications ready to go for you. So we've already talked about that to several of you. But that's what it's all about. The lifeblood of this club is the membership. As you see from the upcoming speakers, who's going to be here, we're going to scratch Tate and bring in, what's the new coach's name? No, not yet. But we'll get him here. And so that's one of the things that this club is all about. And that's why I need you to please. And of course, you know, I like to sweeten the deal just a little bit. And so for those of you who do bring new members in, we do have a drawing for Ruth Chris's gift certificate in middle of January. So you have your orders. Go forth and bring us some good quality folks. Maui, thank you very much.
Thank you, Past President Winkler. Our upcoming speakers next week, December 8th, our guest speaker will be LSU President William Tate, and he'll be speaking to us about moving beyond parallel play, securing Louisiana's future. On Wednesday, the 15th, we'll have our holiday party, and our guests will be the Catholic High St. Joseph's Academy Chamber Singers. So that will be a great event, and please don't forget to register if you're bringing some guests. It'd be a great way to mingle and reconnect with your Rotary friends. On January 4th, we won't have Rotary until the end of the year, but on January 4th, the mayor will be speaking about the state of the city. And January 11th, the new coach, Jay Johnson, the baseball coach, will be speaking to the club. Todd, every week, the Rotary Club Foundation donates a book in honor of our speaker to Crestworth Elementary. This week, the book is Frightville #3, The Haunted Key by Mike Ford. Thank you for signing it. And now Bill O'Quinn will introduce today's speaker.
We're indeed
pleased to have with us today the CEO and president of Mary Bird Perkins, Todd Stevens. Todd has been with Mary Bird Cancer Center, which is a 50-year-old nonprofit, community-owned organization, for 22 years. 16 of those years, I had the privilege of working with him. During that time, I taught him everything he knows. Not really. Anyway, Todd's and our founders believed that everyone should have local access to high quality cancer care has been the catalyst for Mary Bird Perkins becoming Louisiana's leading cancer organization. Today, Mary Bird provides cancer services throughout Southeast Louisiana and Southwest Mississippi, with locations in Baton Rouge, Gonzales, Hammond, Covington, Houma, and Natchez, and serves more than 3,000 patients per year. He also leads the organization life-saving message of early detection. Since 2002, we have tested over 100,000 people and found over 750 people that had cancer. To me, it's also important to know that Mary Bird, though it's a nonprofit, so it doesn't make a profit, but we have, we call it surplus, a little excess, and that money is used to pay for the outreach program as well as our entire department for fundraising. So it's just, I'm getting a little old here. I'm telling you, anyway. So in any case, no administrative overhead on any contribution that's made to Mary Bird. Todd was instrumental in leading the merger of Cancer Services. Now that's a 60-year-old organization, and it has been a seamless type of thing, and that organization really serves this community well. So during his tenure at Mary Bird Perkins, the LSU Medical Physics Partnership was formed, opened exciting new cancer research and educational opportunities in the highly specialized field of medical physics. Got a couple other things here, but in conclusion, Todd has the distinct honor of being a pole vaulter from LSU. And many people don't know that. And furthermore, he vaulted with Mondo Duplantis' father. So anyway, but without further ado, Todd, take it away.
So that's an interesting story. I met Mondo Saturday on a golf course. He drove by and I just did a double take. I was like, that's Mondo Duplantis. I literally felt like a teenager meeting Taylor Swift. I was just like, and he got out of the car and I said, man, I jumped with your dad. He's like, you knew my dad. And he just started talking about stuff, and he lives in Stockholm. It was just, I wanted to take a selfie with him, but I was like, that's probably not cool. It's probably not cool, so I didn't do it. I regret it to this day. I went home and told Kelly that I can't believe I met Mondo Duplantis, and she's like, whoa. Anyway, so that's what I'm not here to talk about that. What I want to talk about today, and I appreciate Bill with the extended introduction. It'll filibuster, so I won't have to answer any questions, which I've been looking really forward to. Bill struck me as, if I have some nerves about addressing this group, it's because the passion that came through from Bill O'Quinn and his introduction. He has spent 16 years serving on the board along with so many other people, and you heard from him the passion about why Mary Bird's an important community-based organization. I wrote a few things down. There'll be some slides up there. I'm not going to look at them, but I'll draw your attention to them. I did want to read to you what a community-based organization is. It's a nonprofit that represents the community and making life better where people live. And that, in a nutshell, is what Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center was founded for and what it exists to do. I was actually invited over a year ago to come and talk to the group, but our friendly pandemic displaced me. So the talk is about Mary Bird's 50 years. And you see at the bottom of that slide our mission statement: to improve survivorship and lessen the burden of cancer. That is endemic of a community organization. Make life better for people where they live. So my talk today is going to be about how Mary Bird Perkins and the fight against cancer is improving lives all over Louisiana and all over the country and all over the world. But before I do that, I want to say a little bit more about Mary Bird, if I can make this work. Do I point it somewhere? There we go. So while you enjoy this collage of photos, some nostalgic and some newer, I want to ask you a question, which is, what do Dr. Jack Rathbone, Jensen Holliday, Pat Culbertson, Jay Campbell, Bob Greer, Richard Lipsey, Jerry Jolly, Donna Siraj, Dr. Tom Meek, Brett Furr, Bill O'Quinn, Art Favre, and Tom Adamak all have in common? They did win a lot of Golden Deeds awards, but they have all been my boss. Those individuals have been the chairman of Mary Bird Perkins dating back to its founding and opening in 1968. With the one exception, I never got to meet Dr. Rathbone. He founded the organization, and he had tragically passed away in a car accident before I started my tenure. But I have had the opportunity to be mentored by and work for and be held accountable by titans of this community. And again, they represent the interest of the community in Baton Rouge and across the state in making things better for where people live. And we take that seriously. I couldn't do what I do without the team that's sitting over here from Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Many of them were introduced as guests. I think they were confused. I think they thought they were going to the Brian Kelly press conference, but they showed up here. So thank you all for coming. And I certainly wouldn't be here today if it weren't for the 36-year relationship Kelly Stevens and I have had. I'd probably be doing something a lot different if I hadn't met her when I was a sophomore in college. And I really met her when we were in high school, but she doesn't think I remember. So anyway, so what are we going to talk about today? We wanted to basically tell you a story about Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center and cancer and how they came together and why we're making such great progress as a nation and a world in the fight against cancer. So that is not showing up like it's supposed to. There we go. Oh, I get to do this. This will be fun. So let me just try to get all this stuff up there. So this is a timeline. And if it's a timeline dating back to basically the 1970s, and Mary Bird and the fight against cancer have something in common. In 1971, Nixon announced the war on cancer. Guess what happened in 1971? Mary Bird Perkins opened its doors on the campus of Women's Hospital. And if you study that chart, you'll see basically between 1970s and the 2000s, the top part of the chart's talking about national advances in cancer care. The bottom part's talking about things Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center has done. In those early days, we opened a new facility in Hammond. We opened a new facility in Covington. We brought a lot of high-tech technology that existed at the time. But if you look at the top of the slide, there's not a lot of meat there. Cancer care and the evolution of disease treatment and diagnosis was really getting formed from that initial launch against cancer in 1971. But take a look at the 2000s, and you see this explosion of activity going on. The Human Genome Project, CAR T cells survived for the first time, and I'll talk a little bit more about what CAR T is later. You see all these amazing things, low-dose CT project that we realized that we could do a low-dose CT scan on a patient that used to smoke and figure out if they're going to have a mass down the line and figure out how to cure them from that potential lung cancer. And you also see this explosion of things going on at the same time in the Mary Bird Perkins environment. We expanded into HOMA. We started our Prevention on the Go program, which Bill alluded to, and I'm going to tell you a lot more about in a little while. And then we had this comprehensive lung cancer program. We started some amazing new technology, and we were the first institution in Louisiana, cancer care institution, that brought something known as a PET CT scanner into a department just for cancer patients. That one device alone changed the game for how physicians take care of cancer patients. So I'm going to keep going. I've got one more slide on this. So that explosion has continued in the 2010s, and we're going to continue to see it in the 2020s. I'll paint you just a little bit of a picture. So the Genome Atlas was completely mapped and computerization. You take the mapping of the genome and the advances in computerization, you can track it back to applied science and biology and a ton of what we are seeing going on in the advancements in cancer and other types of cardiac diseases, and you name it. So look below, 2010s, all these things continue to happen with Mary Bird Perkins at the forefront. We started using immunotherapy. We launched the PhD program of our medical physics program, which I'll talk about in a little while. We achieved NCI status by being a research partner with LSU Health Science Center in New Orleans with a competitively awarded grant to bring research into the community setting. We opened with our partners, Women's Hospital, in collaboration with Our Lady of the Lake, the Breast and GYN Cancer Center on the campus of Women's Hospital. It's truly one of a kind. You might hear of a lot of breast centers across the United States, but they're usually virtual. We were unable to find another facility where it's just to treat women with one particular type of disease, or two in this case. It's amazing the transformation it's been able to make for care for women. Ask any woman that's been treated at that facility the level of care they're getting, and you will get great feedback. I'm certain of that. And then we've expanded into Natchez, and we continue to do awesome things with technology. So where's it headed? I think where you're going to see it headed is you're going to continue to see targeted therapies. You hear all these buzzwords about precision medicine. Ostensibly, what that means is the diagnosis process is going to identify gene abnormalities, and we're going to match them with drugs and therapeutics and surgical interventions that match your gene abnormalities a way to give you the best chance for a positive outcome. And it's just going to continue to get more and more and more sophisticated as a consequence of computerization and our knowledge about the genome and all of these wonderful things that's going on. We also think that the work that was done in the vaccine development for COVID is going to advance immunotherapies in the vaccine therapy areas. So lots of great stuff to come. Let me move on. Don't want to run out of time. So what does that all meant? So 1971, and a lot of these slides have threads. I'm going to keep coming back to things along the way so you can see how this tapestry of progress is making a difference. When Nixon announced that war on cancer, 35% of newly diagnosed people survived 5 years. That's why cancer got the whisper word. Nobody wanted to talk about cancer in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. Why? Because 4 out of 10 survived and 6 out of 10 didn't. That's dismal. That investment, though, today, if you fast forward today, 8 out of 10 people are surviving in 5 years. That's a tremendous progress. And that progress is made possible by that timeline of all those awesome things you saw. Back in the 1970s, there were 9.8 million cancer survivors living among us. Today, there are 20 million. If I asked cancer survivors to stand up in this room, I bet a third of the room would stand up. 30 years ago, it'd have been about a fifth or less. That progress is absolutely amazing, and it's going to continue. This is just a quick slide of where Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center's locations exist. And as Bill mentioned, we're in Houma in a partnership with Terrebonne General Medical Center on the North Shore in St. Tammany Parish. And then you'll see a dot up there in Natchez, Mississippi, which we are really enjoying being part of the Natchez area and the Delta. There are so many unmet needs in that part of Mississippi and Louisiana that we're really digging into how to make a difference. And obviously here in Baton Rouge with a location at Women's Hospital, Essen Lane. We're soon to be working collaboratively with Baton Rouge General and doing a lot of other exciting things across the marketplace. So that's a little view of where we exist. So back to this tapestry and trying to build an understanding of how we can continue to all work together in a fight against cancer. This is a map of cancer incidence. Now, what cancer incidence is simply a new diagnosis of the disease. And the slide on the right, the part of the slide on the right, 481,000 or 481 per 100,000 in Louisiana are diagnosed with cancer year in and year out. This is based on the 2017 Louisiana Tumor Registry data. Across the nation, that's 442.4 per thousand. That's a difference of about 39. And if you apply the math, that means there's a little over 1,000 extra people getting cancer because they live in Louisiana than if they lived anywhere else. That's 1,000 too many people getting cancer. There's a lot of speculation about why that is, and I'll touch on that later. If anybody tells you definitively they know why it is, ask them to see the science, because they don't know. But there's too many people in Louisiana that are continuing to be diagnosed with cancer. And you do see a nice progressive trend line on the downside, both at the United States level and here in Louisiana, but that gap continues to persist. This next slide is really the one that we've paid a tremendous amount of attention to as an organization, and our board paid a tremendous amount of attention to it back in the 2000s. And one of the things I'm going to use as a case argument for this awesome ability to drive cancer care is an investment the organization made in prevention and detection. And I'll show you some data later that maps back to this. But this is concerning. 158.3 per 100,000 in the US, that's mortality, that's cancer deaths. In Louisiana, it's 180. Now, if I dug into the Louisiana parishes and I showed you East Baton Rouge Parish is about right there at about 158. But you go into Tensas, you go into East Carroll, you go into Rapides, you go into these rural parishes, that 180 turns into 240, 250, 260 per 100,000. Those are orders of magnitude of death rates higher than we should tolerate in Louisiana. That's why that gap between cancer mortality in the United States and here in Louisiana, it's closing a little bit, but it's not closing enough. Our organization exists to do something about that. And that's what we do all day, every day. We have an entire team that Renee Duffin leads that goes all over the state of Louisiana, and 2, soon to be 3 mobile medical clinics, trying to find cancer early in people that don't have insurance and don't have means and face health equity differences would blow your mind. And we're out there trying to help them and get them the care they need. More on that in a little while. So what do? We focus on cancer. That's all we do. I have the privilege of working with a management team and a board that narrowly spends time figuring out how to improve survivorship and lessen the burden of cancer. That's an immense privilege. There are very few organizations in the world that have that ability to focus. We have that ability to focus because so many of you and so many people across this state have invested thousands of hours of volunteerism and tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars since 50 years in philanthropy to invest in this mission. Going back to, it's a community-based organization. It was formed to help people do better, to thrive, to live longer, to have more enjoyable relationships. Can you imagine how hard it is to take care of a person with cancer when you need a dual income and that one person can't work anymore and you have kids? It's just incredibly taxing. This organization's focus is on trying to figure out how to deal with all of those issues. And it takes physician leadership, it takes board leadership, it takes donors, and it takes a committed team of professionals. So the evidence that I want to try to get back to is there's the cancer care continuum is a little more complicated than this. It's several more dots, but I didn't want to bore you with the ones that aren't really that meaningful. These are the meaningful parts of the cancer care continuum: education and research, diagnosis and treatment, and prevention and outreach. And I've had just a bit of time that I could make all of this work and give you an example of how the investment that all of you have made in Mary Bird Perkins to allow our team and our board and our volunteers to focus on cancer, how an example of each of these wouldn't exist without Mary Bird Perkins. And I'm absolutely confident of that. I spent my first 10 years in this industry working at the largest cancer care institution in the world, MD Anderson Cancer Center. I was trained by physicians. They made me go to their journal clubs and to their case presentations. And they told me when I got there, you work for us. Your job is to figure out how to resource us so we can save more lives. And I've never forgot that. My job is to figure out how to connect with physicians and people who take care of patients to give them tools to do what they do best. And that's the way we approach our work at Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. So I'm excited to give you 3 quick examples of why these things make a huge difference. So if anybody knows who this guy is on the screen, I'd be super impressed. Other than the Mary Bird board members, they know who he is, so you can't answer. This is a gentleman by the name of Charles Smith. Dr. Smith was a family practice physician who grew up in Sulphur, who is just a tremendous, tremendous man. We got to know Dr. Smith through LSU, and Anne-Marie Marmon, who's back here, developed a relationship with him through the College of Science at LSU. And Anne-Marie and myself and Cynthia Peterson and Wayne Newhouser and Ken Hoekstrom and Jonas Fontenot, part of our physics team, we all got the privilege of getting to know this man. And he committed to build our medical physics program in a way that we could have never done without him. So as you go through the lineage of what medical physics is, it's a really esoteric applied science. It's engineers and medicine, basically. People who design bridges, who design refineries. Medical physicists design MRIs and software that run MRIs, and they keep us safe when you're getting an MRI or a CT or radiation therapy. They're figuring out how to design software to do things that we can't even imagine today. Well, we had a program that started in the early 90s, but in 2005, Dr. Smith said, hey, I'll step up and support an endowed chair. That endowed chair led to Ken Hoekstrom coming, who is a world-renowned physicist at MD Anderson. He started our physics program in earnest. Fast forward to today, there's about 60 people in this program. They're one of the most published and peer-reviewed journals teams in the entire LSU A&M College. They have lots of NCI grants. They're well-funded, and I think there's about 8 to 12 PhD students matriculating through and about 16 master students, and then they added a residency program. That doesn't exist without Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center. Guess who the medical physicists are that support radiation centers and diagnostic imaging centers throughout the state of Louisiana? Guess where they trained? They train right there. You pull that plug on that program, it's pretty hard to recruit sophisticated, well-trained medical physics into a state unless they train there and they have an affinity for the state. Now, not only are we keeping Louisiana kids interested in science who go to LSU here, but we're attracting people from all over the world. And a lot of those folks that we bring in from all over the world, they stay here. They work with Mary Bird Perkins. They work at the Baton Rouge General. They work at facilities in Shreveport. This program and that gentleman are the reason that Mary Bird Perkins is a great vehicle to drive this type of work. Dr. Smith passed away after Hurricane Laura. That was tragic. In a matter of a week, his health declined. The hurricane came through. He evacuated to Lod Cook and his home burned down and he passed away. He left his entire estate ostensibly to Mary Bird and LSU, and 60% of his estate went to the basic science program of medical physics at LSU under Cynthia Peterson's leadership, and 40% went to fund all the applied work and the work we do on Mary Bird that's part of that joint program. It says 7.8 million, but it's actually over 8 million. That's a huge difference, and it will make a huge difference in the continued exploration of this awesome program. All right, I could talk about Dr. Smith forever. Such a great guy. Education and treatment and research. Also want to mention that I mentioned earlier our NCI affiliation through the LSU Health Science Center in New Orleans. That program really started in earnest back in 2007, and it's grown today to where, as a consequence, when we applied for this competitive grant, LSU and Mary Bird, if we didn't get it, it meant that a lot of adult research that was funded by the NCI wouldn't have an avenue to get into Louisiana. We were awarded the grant, and since then, Tulane has become a part of it, and Ochsner has become a part of it. And you might think this is a super competitive environment from all the rhetoric you hear lately, but when Ochsner said, hey, we'd like to be a part of your NCORE is what it's called. It stands for the NCI's Community Oncology Research Program. Augusto Ochoa from LSU called me and said, Todd, what do you think? I said, Augusto, it's going to make research available to more people in Louisiana. We got to do it. And we called him and said, hey, you're in. Now, as a consequence, we're seeing research through the National Cancer Institute and their 6 adult research bases that feed trials into the NCORE available to about 85% of the people who are diagnosed in the state of Louisiana. It's amazing. All right, I have 5 minutes to get to my favorite topic. Let's see if I can get there. So I'm going to do this one quick. Diagnosis and treatment. If you're ever diagnosed with cancer, or you have a friend or loved one diagnosed with cancer, you have one job to advise people. Make sure that your diagnosis is fully done and it's correct. When people call me and say, "Oh, I just got diagnosed with cancer, I'm ready to start treatment," my first advice to them is I say, look, the time between diagnosis and when you have a treatment plan is the most anxious time you're going to have. I've been through it personally with my wife, with a lot of dear friends. It's hell. You don't know what you're dealing with. But please encourage people to take the time so they know exactly what they're dealing with, to allow the physicians and their care team to design a treatment plan that's appropriate for them. We have the tools and the devices in this community to diagnose cancer. We've got unbelievable pathologists. We've got skilled radiologists. We've got all the tech you need to do it. But don't rush that process. Be patient. Get the right diagnosis. You'll get the right treatment. This is a really quick group of technology. I want to mention this adaptive MRI guided radiation therapy coming in July of 2022. Maybe you'll invite me back. I could give you a whole talk, or Jonas Fontenot could give you a whole talk about this device. It is a game changer in radiation therapy. It's going to allow us to real time see a tumor while it's moving around and target it with radiation at the same time. So it's going to open the door for us to treat soft tissues and parts and tumors in the body that move around and be much more aggressive with our dose. The idea that an MRI and a linear accelerator can even coexist in a piece of machinery blows my mind. It's crazy that that can happen, but that's the intersection of great ideas and computerization and innovation. And when people have great ideas, like Jonas and his team of researchers at Mary Bird, and they figure out how to level it up with the laws of physics and biology, things like that happen, and they save lives. These devices are only available right now in institutions like MD Anderson, Sloan Kettering, and large academic institutions. It'll be the first one available in the region, and we can't wait to deploy it. I'm going to skip this part because I got to get to this one, or I'm not doing my job. So, what is the absolute best predictor of a positive outcome from cancer? Early detection. And if anybody sitting in this room is behind on your cancer screenings, go fix it. If you're 45 or older and you haven't had a colonoscopy, go get one. If you have a family history, talk to your doctor about getting one earlier. If you haven't had your mammogram because COVID and you were scared about COVID, go get it. The American Cancer Society is estimating that over 50,000 additional cancer deaths will occur year after year after year because of the delays in care and treatment from the pandemic. That's an amazing statistic. So this is really what I wanted to focus on. This is the lineage of the support of the Prevention on the Go program. It started in 2002. And Renee and her team, as a consequence, now have 2 mobile medical clinics. They're about to get a third. And they literally go on the road weekends, nights, holidays, you name it. They go to community centers, Home Depot parking lots, churches, barber shops. They go to places where health inequities exist, again, that I tell you would blow your mind. We all have access to health insurance. We all have access to doctors. We are blessed beyond measure. There are so many people in our state that can't get a doctor's appointment, that can't get to a doctor's appointment, that don't know that they're supposed to go get a colonoscopy when they're 45. This team was organized by our board at a retreat. When we showed them this data, somebody raised their hand and said, let's go buy a mobile medical clinic and call it the Early Bird. And damn it, they did it. They raised the money. They made some phone calls. Exxon contributed. Our local congressman advocated for some money. And guess what? Community foundations, the Wilson Foundation, donors. This program is supported 100% by community philanthropy, 100%. And we don't care where patients that are diagnosed go and get their treatment. If they want to get it in Shreveport or MD Anderson or across the street, we don't care. We just want them to get diagnosed so they can have a successful outcome. Again, remember, the best predictor of a positive outcome is early detection. So go and take care of yourself. This is just a quick list of all of our partners across the state, and we're going to continue to drive relationships with anybody who wants to advance cancer care. That's what we're about. That's why we want to be Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center for the next 50 years, so that I can report for as long as I have time left to the people who have mentored me and will mentor me in the future, and so that our team can continue to have the luxury and the privilege of focusing exclusively on cancer. So I thank you for your time. Appreciate the opportunity to speak to you, and I'd love to answer any questions because I think I have 5 minutes left. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Awesome. Yes, sir. Todd.
You talked about Mary Bird Perkins. Now there's old Our Lady of the Lake Cancer Center. How do they coexist? How do they work? Or do they not work together?
So that's a great question. So medical communities, hospitals, they're communities of medical care. The Baton Rouge General Women's Hospital, Our Lady of the Lake, Ochsner facilities. There is a role for every organization to participate in the fight against cancer. And one of the things, Todd, that I'm most proud of from being here for 20 years, when I came to Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center, the state of cancer care in Louisiana was really poor. We were leading the nation in deaths from cancer. We've since moved down to about 44th. And I attributed to Mary Bird Perkins Cancer Center and this board and physicians investing their time and energy to make things better, to go buy new technology and to get aggressive about how to treat the disease. We have seen a resurgence across the state and people interested in taking care of cancer patients. So if anyone wants to commit, invest, and resource taking care of cancer patients, we're not going to argue with it because it helps support our mission. Improving survivorship and lessening the burden of cancer. If we do it or somebody else does it or we do it together, it's what we believe in. The day that we can turn our community assets over to the Baton Rouge Area Foundation because cancer is cured will be the happiest day of our board's life. That's why they exist. That's why our team exists. The ability to eradicate cancer takes every single person's energy. And the more people in the fight, the better. Yes, sir.
Next 5 years, money will get concerned, what kind of capital investments do you have to see?
Yeah, that's a great question. One of my slides, we've got my CFO's here, Dana Nusier. She's not too happy about it, but we're about to deploy $20 million over the next few years just in some new equipment. The MRI LENAC is a $10 million project alone. We were graced from a generous gift from the Art Favre family and then several other donors who've stepped up to match that, to make that affordable. That's Mary Bird Perkins couldn't have done that without support from the community. That's a $10 million investment that we get reimbursed for like $1.5 million investment. So you can't make that bridge up without support from the community. In the future, I think you're going to see us get much more interested in some of these immunotherapies and all these targeted cell therapies. They're super expensive. A CAR T therapy treatment is $500,000, $400,000 for a single treatment. It's used right now, I believe, in B-cell lymphoma for adults and leukemias for kids. The more they start to figure out how to engineer the immune system to attack cancer, it's going to become more and more available in a community setting. The second it's available, we don't care if it breaks even or loses money. We just can't lose the farm for it and have to shut our business down. But the second we can afford to do some of these precision therapies that are coming in the drug world, we're going to do them. So I think you'll see a lot of capital committed to the context and scale of being able to bring those types of therapies, not only the applied therapies, radiation and imaging, but these new drug therapies, immunotherapies, vaccine therapies into the community setting. Not so they're just available here in Baton Rouge or New Orleans. 270 people per 100,000 in East Carroll Parish die of cancer compared to 150 here in East Baton Rouge Parish. We got to fix that. So we have to figure out a way to scale what we're doing. So it touches every citizen in Louisiana, not just the privileged among us. Thanks for the question. I think I'm out of time, so thank you all.
Thank you, Todd. Appreciate it. And the meeting is adjourned.